What's up, guys? It's Amara from Rambling Richardson's. At least that's what we're gonna call it for now. Renamed the channel from Amara's Aquatics to Rambling Richardson's. I just figured that fit better. My wife Heather, who's rarely on camera, that might change. We decided that we wanted to pursue having a child, and we had come to this decision. Pre-COVID, we had tried doing the IUI process, and we decided to revisit having a child. And I had made some major changes to our insurance. Work for a really great I work in technical support. I work for a great tech company, and my insurance is something that is, grade A. And so I can't ask for more. It's amazing. This may not be true for everybody because insurance is different and people's processes are going to be different, but I want to share with you the process we're taking at this point, still currently in, with IVF, in vitro fertilization, which is a little bit different than IUI, which is in utero fertilization. And there's a lot of steps to it. It can be very overwhelming, especially if you've never done something like this before. And also if you're navigating this space in a non-traditional way. A couple of things I wanted just to address, and hopefully if you have questions or comments, definitely leave them. And this could be something that we have to do more than once, hopefully only once, but there could be others out there that need help, and that's kind of what this is for. So we kind of learned all of these things as they were happening. We basically said, this is what we want to do. We had a doctor that we went to through IUI, and IUI was, as you learn, as things are happening, what you need to do. We had some criteria with this new insurance that we had to meet. So we had somebody from the insurance call us and talked with them, and we had to make sure first that they were center of excellence, that they had to be in network, and they had to be a center of excellence in order to be covered by our insurance. So that was something that we had to find out, and luckily they were. That was great. So when we made the appointment, we went in, the doctor looked at our chart and was like, well, I don't see any reason why we can't just start immediately. And we were like, okay, great. And we had been through the IUI process and knew, we were going to need to pick out what's called a donor cell. So there's some things that need to be said here about picking the donor cell and why I'm using this language. I'll get to that. Switch up positions here on you just a little bit. So when we did IUI, part of the process and the requirements was to go see a therapist that would go over some of the more legal things, legal aspects of what we were doing. And the reason why we don't say the father or the daddy or the sperm, donor, we say donor cell, because the sperm donor is donating essentially what you would consider like an organ donor or a tissue donor. This person is not going to have any legal representation or any kind of legal grounds to the potential child, and they signed away rights when they did that. Back to the process. After you get your donor cells and you get your blood work done and you start on your fertility medications, your doctor's gonna prescribe you a battery of fertility meds depending on what your fertility needs are. Luckily, my wife doesn't have any kind of extraordinary fertility needs, so we got just a basic gambit of fertility drugs. And most of these are going to be injectables. You're going to have to take a number of different things and inject them into your body several times a day. A pen that had a cartridge that you just twisted it to however much they told you you needed to twist it to, that was your dose. Well, the other drug that they gave us that she needed to inject was a solution. She got cold feet after the first one. We had to give her a 15-minute time frame. So we were at a friend's pool party. We had left. We did her first shot and she was not ready for it. So we waited 15 minutes and then we had to do the second shot. And so they were 15 minutes apart. So once you get the hang of it, it's easy to do. And you have to go through this for like 2 weeks, like 10 days or something like that, 10 to 14 days of injecting this medication and going to get blood work during this time frame and going to the doctor and getting ultrasounds. So more follicles, and the bigger the follicles are, mean you're reaching a point where you're going to go in for the egg retrieval, where they can take the eggs out. Putting all these injectables into your body, though, it has repercussions. All of these medications affect your body, and it causes bloating, it causes hormones to go out of balance than what they normally would. Is your body is producing eggs, essentially. Like, you're getting ready to go in and have somebody suck a bunch of eggs out of you so that you can try to fertilize them. It is hard to watch your partner go through something like that, and they're going to not be having a great time. You're stabbing them with needles, you're injecting them with things. Their body is changing, they're uncomfortable. So if you're not going through it yourself and you're being a support, you're going to deal with some grumpy gusses. So just try to understand that. And if you are the one that's going through it, I feel for you. I don't know what you're going through myself, but it gets better. I promise. Hold on. Just hold on. It's going to seem very daunting. And the closer you get to egg retrieval day, the harder it's going to be to deal with poking and the bloating and the mood swinging. Hold on, though. It gets better. I promise. Okay. So, sorry. I had to take a break there. Had to do some work. And Bella wanted to come say hi. Say hi, Bella. Hi. It's Bella. It's my wife's dog. Anyways, getting back, enough cute doggy stuff. Getting back to what I was saying about the drugs and injections and the hormones and the mood swings. It's a lot. And if you're going through it yourself, hang in there. And if you are partner of somebody or helping somebody go through this process, hang in there too. They need you. And it's a lot. And sometimes you just have to grin and bear it and realize that it's for something that's bigger than yourself. Greater good. Get what I'm saying? So after several trips to the doctor to get your sonograms and checking your follicles, checking your blood work, you go through this every couple of days, or like 3 days or so, you go through this routine. And once you get to a certain point, which the doctor will determine, then you get a trigger shot, which will trigger your body's chemistry to say, okay, we're going to move on to the next phase. Now, what all that means, it really, like progesterone and estrogen and like testosterone and cortisol, and is this, triggering your, menstrual cycle, la, 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 la. I don't know. I could not tell you. I can tell you that once you do the trigger shot, after that, the ball rolls really fast. They call you, you do blood work, they say you're taking your trigger, they'll call you and say you're doing a trigger shot between this time and this time. Oh, my wife works at a really bougie mall, and it doesn't have any cell reception. I work from home. We work very similar hours. So when the doctor's calling with this information, they can't reach her. So they have to call me, and I take phone calls for a living. Most of the time, I wear this thing and talk to people on the phone. So we get the call, we get the time to do our trigger shot, we do the trigger shot, then you go in and you do your egg retrieval. Now, during this whole experience, I will tell you this. My wife's menstrual cycle was crazy. She bled like crazy, and it was heavy and then light, and she had cramps and bloating, and then it was heavy again, then it would stop for a few days, and then it would go back. So the best thing I could say is work with your nurse, ask lots of questions during this whole process, and ask them what to expect with your menstrual cycle, because it's gonna get crazy, okay? Just have plenty of stuff on hand. Well, let's talk about after your trigger shot. What happens? So you do your trigger shot, and they tell you you're going to come in for your egg retrieval. And this is kind of the first big thing after doing your shots. Like, this is what you've been working for. All those shots have been for. They will you back. It's a 15-minute procedure. Took about as long as it did for them to fix my sinuses as they did to suck out her eggs. And depending on the hormone medication and stuff that you've been doing, depends on how much they're going to be able to retrieve. So my wife goes in there, whoop, 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 comes back out. She's still dead asleep, right? And they said she did really, really well. Like, they're still counting. That's a good thing. Did have bleeding afterwards, and this is why I said be prepared for bleeding. It's going to happen. So just don't try to freak out, and don't think that something crazy is happening. They came back. We got 46 eggs retrieved. 46 eggs retrieved. Y'all, 46 eggs retrieved is, amazing. For any of you math nerds out there, that's 2 standard deviations above the normal. If you understand how a bell curve works, right? If you remember back in high school, they did, graphing calculators. The bell curve was like a bell-shaped curve, went like this, whoop, whoop, right? So in the middle, that is your normal, right? What most of your data is going to be, because that's the top part, right? And then as you get out towards the ends, those are the outliers, right? Those are the not so normal things that you would find, right? So the middle is more on average, and then towards the out here is the not so average what happens. So when you get to like 95% of that data, that's the first standard deviation, and 99% is the second standard deviation. At least that's what I remember from my statistics and quantitative analysis class from Texas State University. I may be totally wrong. I maybe get killed in the comments for this later, but from what I understand, that's what standard deviations are. So she was in like the 99 percentile. Like, that is super uncommon to have that amount of eggs pulled. So we were blessed, very blessed. Now, when you go into this procedure, there are a couple of things we need to talk about. Paperwork, paperwork, paperwork. There's going to be paperwork, stacks of it. Just be prepared to fill things out in triplicate. Why is this important? The most important part of all of this is that in this paperwork is going to be something, again, that they don't really explicitly tell you and is not necessarily going to be covered by insurance, and a lot of times is not covered by insurance. Medications for this is also what they call stems, is all of those shots. A lot of times that's not covered. The eggs, once you pull the eggs, once you've got the eggs, there's paperwork involved about that and what you want to do once you get them, and if you don't need them anymore, if you were to die. I mean, there's all sorts of scenarios to think of, but one of the most important ones that you need to think about is getting the eggs genetically tested after they've been fertilized. So genetically testing the eggs after they've been fertilized can screen for a number of different things. You can look for things like, all sorts of genetic defects, not just mental deficits here. We're talking about things that may be genetic, that may affect their respiratory system or their, nervous system, which would make that baby's quality of life very low if they were to make it to term. So it cost a ton of money, and insurance doesn't cover. My wife and I decided a long time ago that it didn't matter to us as long as the baby was happy and was healthy. Now, when it came up to whether or not we wanted, us personally, to test our eggs, number one, it was super expensive, and it was hard for us to be able to justify doing that for a number of reasons. One, it can, in some cases, lower your ability to get pregnant. That is a huge amount of money to lower your odds. It didn't seem to justify it. And then thirdly, let's say that this child was conceived through natural methods. We wouldn't be able to genetically test that embryo if it had been a child conceived of natural methods. So it just didn't seem right. So we decided to opt out of genetically testing all of our eggs, all of them. So 46 eggs. Whoa. So the next part of that process is that the eggs get fertilized, and then they get blasted and they get frozen. So out of the 46 eggs that were pulled, 19 of them were fertilized and were able to go through the blast process. That's like 2/3 or so. Again, these are amazing statistics, and not everybody is as blessed as we are. This is like amazing, more than we could ever expect or offer. So I don't want to set a false expectation for people out there who are thinking they're going to have results like this, because some people go through the process and get like 5 eggs and only one of them gets fertilized. And that's it. Or none of them get fertilized or make it to the blasting process. So we get our 19 eggs. They go to be frozen. This actually helps with the process of IVF. And then we have a doctor's appointment after this. So we go in for our appointment and we check, and she has lots of cysts. Nothing to be worried about here. This is actually super common, apparently. After you have IVF done, typically this happens. So what you do is you go on birth control. And birth control helps the level of the hormones in the body kind of even out and heal up what's going on where all the cysts were from the follicles. So after a couple of weeks of being on birth control, go back and get another sonogram, and you get checked for uterine lining. They do like saline solution to check that. You get more tests, more blood work, thyroid stuff. And again, things are going to be a little bit different because different people are going to have different needs for their fertility. And my wife had a little bit of a thyroid issue, so they put her on some thyroid medication. They tested her thyroid and needed that to be adjusted. So we had to take some thyroid meds. And then we had to get some more fertility medication. So when we do the egg transfer and get ready to go get the egg transferred back, they said, you should be good to do, like, everything looks good, everything's checked out, all of your levels are good, your cysts are gone, let's do your transfer on Tuesday. And so that's coming up, and today's Friday, so I may post this before Tuesday, I may wait until afterwards. But after the egg transfer, go in, do the egg transfer, and again, it's a super quick procedure. She'll probably be out of work for a day or two, be a little bit sore, but then we wait. It's just a waiting game. You wait until you get blood tests, and then you know if you're pregnant or not. So that's the end of the timeline there. But, we have other medications that she has to do starting Sunday. And then after we do the egg transfer, she has to do other medications. And all these medications are specialty medications. Like all of the stems, all those shots and stuff like that. And all of the stuff that you have to do for the egg transfer. All those come from a specialty pharmacy. And I spoke to this a little bit earlier. Some of that, for a lot of people, is not covered under insurance. We have amazing insurance. My employer has got grade A insurance, and I upgraded the type of insurance we had, so we're very blessed. So our medications and stuff like that for us were not super expensive, and we actually just hit our deductibles. So moving forward, we don't have expenses. Insurance is picked up out of pocket. We've hit our out of pocket and our deductibles. So everything's being picked up at this point through insurance, which is amazing. I couldn't imagine a better scenario. But, hearing this whole process from beginning to end, not knowing any of these steps until they told us what the steps were during that, that meeting we had. Okay, what's the next step? Okay, this is what you're going to do next. And they give you like little sheets and stuff like that. It's hard. It's really hard to navigate, and it's one of those things that you just don't know until you start going through it. And there's not a whole lot of people out there. I don't think sharing their stories, at least not video wise. We joined a Facebook group to help us with information, but I was like looking at Greek, like what are they talking about? Their triggers and STEMIs, and I was like, I have no idea what all this is, and I spend all day on a computer. So when I get off work, I don't want to spend time on the computer researching. Really try to be very diligent. One thing that I can recommend is just have a calendar. If you don't have a physical calendar, set up like a Google Calendar or a calendar through like your iPhone. That's a family calendar. All of this helps with the fertility, and your fertility specialists will, answer these questions for you and what you can do to be better, to have better results. Like, definitely don't be shy. And I would say if you don't feel comfortable with your fertility specialist, look elsewhere. We love our fertility specialists, and definitely would definitely recommend. If anybody wants to know, you can definitely let me know, send me a comment or whatever, and I will certainly reach out to you, let you know who we go through. But we're at the end here, so we go in just a few days to get the egg implanted, and then we wait, and by the 18th of August we go back for a blood panel that will tell us whether or not my wife is officially pregnant. Just have somebody to talk to about just the stressors and things that happen during this process to help you navigate it. There's lots of resources online, and I, of course, just want anybody out there who's going through this as well to be happy and healthy. But anyway, guys, I'm going to stop rambling. That's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like seeing this, give me a thumbs up, hit the like button, subscribe, read the notification bell. And anyways, I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, we'll see you on the next video.